Be me Declan, 30-something data analyst. My official title is senior analyst, which is corporate speak for the guy you call when everything is on fire. The job is fine. The pay is good. I'm not saving the world. I'm just making sure the company's databases don't implode. I work in a small, specialized department. There are about 6 of us, including our manager, Spencer. Spencer is a decent guy. He's not a great manager, but he's not a bad one either. He's just there. His main skill is staying out of the way and letting us work. The team is pretty solid. There's Jason, an older guy who's been with the company since the Stone Age. He knows all the ancient systems nobody else will touch. Then there's Matthias, the new kid. He's smart, eager, but still makes rookie mistakes. I've been unofficially mentoring him. The rest are a few quiet coders and analysts who keep to themselves. We're not friends, but we're a well-oiled machine. My role in this machine is the main gear. I don't mean that to sound arrogant. It's just a fact. I handle the most complex queries, I build the architecture for new projects, and I fix the problems that make everyone else want to cry. I'm not a social person. I don't do small talk. I don't care about sports or what you did on the weekend. I come to work, put on my headphones, solve complex problems, and go home. That's the deal. People think I'm weird or rude because I'm quiet. I'm not. I just don't see the point in filling the air with meaningless noise. My work speaks for itself. Or at least, I thought it did. Our system worked perfectly. Spencer would get a high-priority request from the VPs, panic for about 10 minutes, forward it to the team, and I'd have a solution in his inbox within the hour. He'd take the credit, the VPs would be happy, and our department would be left alone to do our actual jobs. This was the balance, the unspoken agreement. It worked for years. Then Angelique arrived. I remember the day clearly. It was a Tuesday or a Wednesday, a few months back. We got a mandatory all-hands meeting invite. The subject line was something like, "A new chapter of synergy and growth." My soul died a little just reading it. We all shuffled into the big conference room. Spencer was up front, looking nervous. He introduced the new head of HR, Angelique. She walked up to the podium with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You know the type, the overly enthusiastic, corporate-speak evangelist. She started talking. For a solid 30 minutes, she unleashed a fire hose of buzzwords: psychological safety, holistic engagement, proactive cultural alignment, building our corporate family. It was like someone had fed a management textbook into an AI, and this was the result. Most of the team was either on their phones or staring into the middle distance, mentally checked out. I was just sitting in the back, listening, trying to figure out what this meant for our department. Her eyes scanned the room and eventually locked onto me. I wasn't doing anything, just sitting there. But I guess my neutral expression was interpreted as hostility. She finished her speech with a promise to have one-on-one meetings with everyone to better understand their place in our family. I just wanted to get back to my desk. I had a critical data migration project that was more important than any of this. The first sign of trouble came a week later. An email from Angelique. Subject: mandatory team-building fun. It was an invitation to go bowling after work. On a Thursday. I had zero interest in throwing a heavy ball at some pins with people I only knew in a professional context. I clicked decline on the calendar invite. I didn't think twice about it. The next day, Spencer came over to my desk. He looked uncomfortable. He asked why I wasn't going to the bowling night. I told him I had personal commitments. It wasn't a lie. My personal commitment was to not be at a bowling alley with my coworkers. He mumbled something about how it was important for team cohesion and that Angelique was really pushing for 100% participation. I just looked at him. My work is here. My team cohesion is based on the quality of my work and my reliability. I provide both. Spencer just sighed and walked away. He knew I was right, but he was too weak to push back against HR. Jason came by later. He leaned over my monitor. "Don't let her get to you," he said. "She's one of them. The kind that thinks you can fix deep-seated process issues with a pizza party." I just nodded. Jason got it. He'd seen a dozen Angeliques come and go over the years, but this one felt different, more zealous. A week later, I got the email for my one-on-one. I went to her office. It was exactly as I'd imagined. White furniture, inspirational posters with eagles and mountains, and a big stupid plant in the corner. She sat across from me with a bright yellow legal pad and a pen, ready to psychoanalyze me. The questions started. They had nothing to do with my job. "How do you feel you contribute to the office atmosphere, Declan? Do you feel like your colleagues are your friends? Why don't you share your thoughts more during team meetings?" I answered everything honestly and concisely. I told her I contribute by solving the department's most difficult technical problems. I told her I view my colleagues as respected professionals, not necessarily friends, and that I believe a professional boundary is healthy. I told her I only speak in meetings when I have something of substance to add. I don't talk just to hear my own voice. With every answer, she would nod slowly, purse her lips, and scribble something on her notepad. I could practically see the words she was writing. "Does not engage. Lacks team spirit. Poor communication skills." She then brought up the bowling night. She said my refusal to attend sent a negative message to the team, a message that I was not a team player. I explained that my personal time is my own and that mandatory fun is an oxymoron. The smile on her face became a little tighter. She told me that at this company, the culture is one of participation, that they were trying to build a family, and I was acting like a distant cousin who never comes to Thanksgiving. I almost laughed. A family? We're employees. We're here for a paycheck. This isn't a family. But I didn't say that. I just sat there. The meeting ended with her telling me she wanted to see me make more of an effort to be part of the team. I walked out of that office knowing this was just the beginning. Things started to get worse. Angelique started implementing all sorts of cultural initiatives. Fun sock Fridays, morning huddles, where we had to share one personal and one professional goal for the day. Kudos boards, where we had to publicly praise each other for trivial things. It was a nightmare of forced positivity. Our department's productivity started to dip. Instead of focusing on our complex work, we were wasting time in these stupid meetings and activities. I, of course, participated as little as possible. I would state my professional goal in the huddle, complete the Q3 data integrity audit, and just stay silent for the personal one. I didn't wear fun socks. I didn't write on the kudos board. I just kept doing my job. I kept closing tickets, fixing bugs, and keeping the company's data infrastructure from collapsing. Matthias was struggling with a new query language. He came to me for help. I spent 2 hours after work walking him through it line by line, explaining the logic. I didn't have to, but I saw potential in him, and I believe in passing on knowledge. The next day, Angelique saw me at my desk, quietly explaining a complex function to Matthias. Later, she pulled Matthias aside. He told me about it afterward. She asked him if he felt intimidated by me, if my unapproachable nature made it hard for him to ask for help. Matthias was confused. He told her the opposite was true. He said I was the most helpful person in the department and had taught him more in a few weeks than he'd learned in a year of college. This was not the answer Angelique wanted. Her crusade against me escalated. She went to Spencer. I wasn't in the room, but Jason's desk is close to Spencer's office, and the walls are thin. Jason told me she was claiming my toxic stoicism and refusal to integrate were creating a culture of fear in the department. She said I was a knowledge hoarder who made the team dependent on him, which was a business risk. A culture of fear? I barely spoke to anyone. A knowledge hoarder? I was actively training the junior member of the team. It was complete nonsense, but she used the right HR-approved vocabulary to make it sound legitimate. Spencer, to his credit, apparently tried to defend me. Jason heard him say things like, "He's our best analyst," and "the department would fall apart without him." Angelique's response was cold and clinical. No one is irreplaceable, and a positive, collaborative culture is more valuable than any single high performer with a bad attitude. Spencer folded. He didn't have the spine to fight HR. That afternoon, I got another calendar invite. This time it was from Spencer. Angelique was also on the invite. The subject was performance review. I knew immediately what this was. I walked into Spencer's office. Angelique was already there, sitting with her yellow notepad. Spencer wouldn't make eye contact with me. They put me on a PIP, a performance improvement plan. I had never had a negative performance review in my life. My technical evaluations were always flawless. I consistently exceeded every metric related to my actual job, but this PIP had nothing to do with my job. The document they slid across the table was one of the most absurd things I have ever read. My areas for improvement were listed in bullet points. 1. Enhance proactive verbal communication in team settings. 2. Demonstrate leadership through participation in non-project related company activities. 3. Foster a more open and approachable demeanor with colleagues. It was a PIP for my personality. The goals they set for me were even more insane. For the next 30 days, I was required to initiate at least one non-work-related conversation with a different colleague each day, speak up at least twice in every team meeting, even if just to offer encouragement, attend all mandatory and optional after-hours social events, take a lunch break in the common cafeteria area instead of at my desk. There was a final catch-all goal: exhibit a more positive and enthusiastic attitude. They were literally telling me I had to smile more. I read the entire document without saying a word. My face was a stone mask. Spencer was sweating. He kept clearing his throat and shuffling papers. Angelique had a calm, almost smug look on her face. She had won. I looked up from the paper and asked a single question. Will any of this help me do my job more effectively? Spencer flinched. Angelique answered, It will help you become a more effective member of our corporate family, Declan. I picked up the pen and signed the document. It was an acknowledgement that I had received it, not that I agreed with it. I stood up and walked out of the office without another word. Back at my desk, I reread the PIP. It was a joke, a work of fiction. They weren't trying to improve me. They were trying to manage me out. They were building a paper trail to justify firing me. I had a choice. I could play their stupid game, or I could continue to do my job. I chose the latter. I completely ignored the PIP. I didn't talk to anyone at the water cooler. I didn't offer fake encouragement in meetings. I ate lunch at my desk while debugging a critical piece of code. I just kept working, harder than ever. I closed more tickets. I optimized more databases. I documented all my processes with meticulous detail, creating guides so that others could follow my work if needed. I wasn't just doing my job. I was building a monument to my own competence, a silent testament to the value they were trying to discard. The other team members noticed. They saw the pressure being put on me, and they saw my response. Jason would give me a quiet nod of respect. Matthias started bringing me a coffee every morning without saying a word. They knew the game Angelique was playing, and they knew it was wrong. A couple of weeks into the PIP, the inevitable happened. A major crisis. It wasn't a small bug. It was a catastrophic failure in the main transaction processing system. Every sale the company made, every order, every transaction went through this system. And it was down. Hard down. The company was losing money. A lot of money. Every minute. An emergency alert went out. All hands on deck for the tech departments. The war room was chaos. VPs were yelling into phones. Spencer was pacing back and forth, looking like he was about to have a heart attack. The entire analyst team was staring at lines of code, trying to find the source of the failure. Nobody could figure it out. The system was a complex beast, built years ago with layers upon layers of patched-together code. Only a handful of people truly understood its guts. Jason was one of them, but the failure was in a newer module he hadn't worked on. I was the other one. I pushed through the crowd and sat down at a terminal. I put on my headphones to block out the noise and went to work. For the next 4 hours, I didn't move. The entire company's fate rested on this, and the noise of the panic was just a distraction. I dove deep into the code, deeper than I ever had before. It was like navigating a labyrinth in the dark. I traced the data flow, checked the error logs, cross-referenced the server outputs, and then I found it. A single line of code. A recent update, pushed by another department, had created a recursive loop under a very specific set of conditions. Those conditions had just been met for the first time. The system wasn't just crashing, it was actively trying to destroy its own data. It was a ticking time bomb. I couldn't just fix the line of code. I had to write a script to reverse the damage that had already been done, without corrupting terabytes of valid data. It was the most complex piece of work I had ever done. While I was working, Angelique showed up in the war room. She wasn't there to help. She was there with a box of donuts. "Just wanted to support our hard-working tech family," she announced to the room. I didn't even look up. The sight of her, performing her corporate theater while the company was burning down, was nauseating. Finally, after almost 6 straight hours of intense focus, I had it. A fix and a recovery script. I ran the script. The room held its breath. For a few agonizing minutes, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the system status lights on the main monitor started turning from red to green. The flow of data resumed. The system was back online. The room erupted in cheers and applause. People were clapping me on the back. Spencer looked like he was going to kiss me. I just took off my headphones, stood up, and said, "I'm going home." I had been at work for nearly 16 hours. I was exhausted. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought, surely, after saving the company from a multi-million-dollar disaster, they would leave me alone. Surely, my value had been proven beyond any doubt. I was wrong. For Angelique, this wasn't a victory. It was a threat. My quiet competence, my ability to solve a problem that no one else could, didn't make me a hero in her eyes. It made me a rogue element, an unpredictable variable that she couldn't control with team-building exercises and fun sock Fridays. The next day, I came into work to an email. It was another meeting invitation from Spencer. Subject, urgent meeting. Angelique was CC'd. I knew this was it. This was the end of the line. My 30-day PIP wasn't even over yet. It didn't matter. My heroic act of saving the company was going to be my undoing. It was the final nail in my coffin. Because I had done it alone. I hadn't collaborated. I hadn't synergized. I had just solved the problem. And in Angelique's world, that was the greatest sin of all. I walked into Spencer's office. The atmosphere was even colder than the last time. Angelique was there, of course. She had a file folder in front of her, my file. Spencer was staring at a spot on his desk, refusing to look at me. He looked smaller than usual, defeated. I didn't sit down. I just stood there and waited. Angelique started. She didn't waste any time with pleasantries. She opened the folder and began to speak in a calm, rehearsed monologue. She told me that while the company appreciated my technical intervention during the previous day's crisis, my methods were a cause for serious concern. I just listened. She explained that my decision to work alone, without involving the team or management in my process, was a direct violation of the collaborative principles outlined in my performance improvement plan. She said that I had siloed critical information and created a key person dependency, which was a significant risk to the business. It was incredible. She was twisting the act of saving the company into a fireable offense. She was using my competence as a weapon against me. She said that my actions, and I quote, demonstrated a fundamental misalignment with the company's core values of synergy and teamwork. I glanced at Spencer. He was still staring at his desk. He looked physically ill. He was the manager. He could have stopped this. He could have told them the truth, that I was the only one who could have fixed it, and that teamwork would have just slowed the process down and cost the company millions more. But he said nothing. His silence was his consent. It was a complete betrayal. Angelique continued. She said that my failure to make progress on my PIP goals, combined with the rogue actions I took during the crisis, left them with no choice. She slid a piece of paper across the desk, a termination letter. Effective immediately, she said, her voice devoid of any emotion. Your employment with this company is terminated. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I didn't show any anger or frustration. Giving them an emotional reaction would have been giving them a victory. It would have proven their point that I was toxic or unstable. My silence was the only weapon I had left. I picked up the letter. I read it. It was full of the same corporate jargon and baseless accusations. I looked at Angelique. Her face was a mask of professional detachment, but I could see a flicker of triumph in her eyes. She'd finally slain her dragon. I then looked at Spencer. He finally looked up at me. His eyes were full of shame and cowardice. I didn't say a word to him. I just held his gaze for a few seconds. I wanted him to remember this moment. I wanted him to remember that he had a chance to stand up for his best employee, and he chose to do nothing. I turned and walked out of the office. My security badge was already deactivated. Angelique, ever efficient, had arranged for a security guard to escort me to my desk. It was humiliating. The guard, a big guy who looked bored, stood over me as I packed my things into a small cardboard box. My coffee mug, a couple of technical manuals, a framed photo of my dog. That was it. I didn't keep much personal stuff at work. The whole department was silent. Everyone was watching. They knew what was happening. I saw Matthias. He looked like he was about to be sick. He had looked up to me. I had been his mentor. I saw Jason. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring directly at Spencer's office, and his expression was pure, unadulterated contempt. He knew the whole story. He knew this was a monumental injustice. The other team members just stared at their screens, pretending to work, but the tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. I finished packing my box. The guard walked me towards the exit. As I walked past Jason's desk, he looked up and met my eyes. He gave me a slow, almost imperceptible nod. It wasn't a nod of sympathy. It was a nod of something else. A promise. Then I was gone. The guard walked me all the way to the front door of the building. He took my visitor's pass, and I was out on the street, holding a cardboard box in the middle of a workday. It was a strange feeling, a mix of anger, frustration, and a surprising amount of relief. The fight was over. I didn't have to deal with Angelique's corporate nonsense anymore. I didn't have to work for a spineless manager like Spencer. I was free. I went home. I put the box down. I let my dog out. I made a cup of coffee. I sat down at my personal computer and started updating my resume. I knew I'd be fine. My skills were in high demand. I had saved enough money to be comfortable for months, even a year if I was careful. The company, on the other hand, I wasn't so sure. I knew how many things I held together with digital duct tape and custom scripts. I knew about the hidden bugs and the legacy systems that only I understood. I had built a fortress of code for them, and they had just exiled the architect. I didn't sleep much that night, not because I was worried, but because my mind was still processing the sheer stupidity of it all. They had fired the one person who could solve their biggest problems because he didn't smile enough. It was beyond parody. The next morning, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I ignored it. It rang again a few minutes later. Same number. I ignored it again. Then I got a text. It was from Jason. Check your email, and don't answer any calls from work. I opened my personal email. There was a message from Jason's personal account. The subject was the aftermath. I opened it and started to read. And as I read, a slow smile spread across my face. Jason had described the morning's events in glorious detail. Apparently, the day started with a minor issue. One of the automated financial reports for the CFO failed to run overnight. This was a report I had built. It was a complex script that pulled data from 3 different legacy systems. It was fragile and required manual intervention from time to time if one of the source systems had a hiccup. Spencer, in his infinite wisdom, told Matthias to fix it. Matthias, bless his heart, tried. He spent an hour looking at my code, getting more and more confused. It was way above his pay grade. The CFO's office started calling, demanding to know where their report was. Spencer started to panic. He tried to call me. Those were the calls I had ignored. Then the second domino fell. A high-priority request came in from the sales department. They needed a data set for a huge potential client. The deadline was noon. This was another one of my specialties. It required a custom query that could navigate the labyrinth of our customer database without crashing the entire server. Spencer assigned it to the rest of the team. Jason wrote in his email that it was like watching a slapstick comedy. 4 analysts, all competent in their own right, were trying to collaborate on a query that was designed for a single, focused mind. They were stepping on each other's toes, overwriting each other's work. The query they wrote was inefficient and slow. When they tried to run it, it started to drag the whole network down. By 11 a.m., the department was in a state of chaos. The CFO was furious. The head of sales was screaming at Spencer over the phone. Nothing was getting done. The machine had ground to a halt. The main gear had been removed, and all the smaller gears were just spinning uselessly. That's when Jason made his move. He stood up from his desk. The entire department went quiet. He walked over to Spencer's office. Spencer was inside, looking pale and frantic. Jason didn't knock. He just walked in and placed his company ID badge on Spencer's desk. According to his email, the conversation went something like this. He told Spencer that he had worked for the company for 20 years. He had seen good managers and bad managers. He had seen smart decisions and stupid decisions. But he had never, in all his years, seen a company so willingly and enthusiastically sabotage itself. He said that firing me was not just a mistake. It was an act of corporate self-destruction. He told Spencer that he refused to work for a man who didn't have the courage to stand up for his own team. And he refused to work for a company that valued enthusiastic attitudes over actual measurable competence. He said, "I quit." And then he walked out. Spencer was apparently too stunned to even respond. Jason's act was the spark that lit the fuse. Matthias was the next one. He stood up, walked to Spencer's desk, and placed his badge next to Jason's. He just said, "Declan taught me everything. If he's not welcome here, then neither am I." Then the other 2 analysts followed. One after the other, they walked up and resigned. They had all seen the writing on the wall. They knew that without me, their jobs were about to become impossible. They would be blamed for the inevitable failures that were coming. And they had seen that loyalty and competence meant nothing to the new regime. So they left. All of them. The final scene, as Jason described it, was pure poetry. Spencer was sitting alone in his office, staring at a pile of ID badges on his desk. His entire department, his entire team of highly specialized analysts, had evaporated in the space of 10 minutes. And that's when Angelique walked in. She was holding a flyer. She had a big, bright smile on her face. She apparently didn't notice the empty desks or the funereal atmosphere. She walked up to Spencer's office and said, "Great news! I got approval for a departmental mindfulness and yoga session next Friday." Spencer just looked at her. His face was ashen. He slowly pointed a trembling finger towards the empty room. "There's no one left," he whispered. "They're all gone." Angelique's smile finally faltered. She looked out at the empty chairs, the dark monitors. Confusion washed over her face. "What do you mean they're gone?" Spencer's voice was barely audible. "They quit. All of them. They all quit." Jason wrote that he was watching from the end of the hallway. He saw the moment the reality of the situation crashed down on Angelique. The color drained from her face. Her corporate confidence shattered into a million pieces. She had been so focused on enforcing her abstract ideas of culture that she had completely ignored the reality of the work. She had tried to remove one toxic gear, and in doing so, she had destroyed the entire engine. The story didn't end there. A few hours later, I got another call. It was Jason. He told me that the VP of Technology had called him, begging him to come back, offering him a raise. Jason had just laughed and hung up. He then told me that he had already made some calls of his own to a competitor, a smaller, more agile company that valued talent over buzzwords. He had told them he had a whole team of expert analysts who were suddenly on the market. They were very, very interested. We all met up at a bar that evening, the whole former department. For the first time, I actually felt like part of a team, not because of forced bowling or fun sock Fridays, but because we had all stood together for a principle, the principle that good work should matter more than office politics. We all had job interviews lined up at the new company for the following week. They were practically rolling out the red carpet for us. As for my old company, I heard through the grapevine that the fallout was biblical. The collapse of our department created a chain reaction of failures throughout the entire organization. Deadlines were missed, clients were lost, the stock price took a hit. I heard that Spencer was fired. And Angelique, she was quietly reassigned to a position with no responsibilities in a forgotten satellite office. Her career was effectively over, publicly humiliated, but in the most corporate way possible. Sometimes I think about what she must have thought, sitting in that empty office. Did she finally understand? Did she realize that you can't build a family on a foundation of buzzwords and mistrust? That a quiet man doing his job is not a threat? And that sometimes the most toxic thing in an office isn't a person's attitude, but a system that punishes competence and rewards conformity? I doubt she learned anything. People like her never do. But it doesn't matter. We're all in better jobs now. I'm leading a new team, and I get to build a culture based on respect for the work, not on mandatory fun. And I'm still quiet. I still keep to myself. But now they call it focused, not toxic. Funny how that works.
Be me, 43, Dean of Student Affairs at mid-sized liberal arts college in Pennsylvania. Salary $175,000. Been in higher education for 19 years. PhD in education policy. Dissertation on gender equity in collegiate athletics. This is my dream job. Finally have authority to implement real change. College is called Westfield College. 3,200 students. Founded 1887. Small private school. Good reputation. Heavily dependent on alumni donations. Endowment is $220 million. Sounds big, but it's modest for a private college. Annual budget is $95 million. Tuition covers maybe 60%. Rest is donations and endowment. I was hired 2 years ago to modernize student life and enhance equity. Board wanted someone progressive, someone who'd shake things up. President is Dr. Patricia Morrison, 61. Been here 15 years, close to retirement. She's old guard academic, cares about tradition and donor relations. We clash frequently. She's too cautious, too concerned with optics. I'm here to make actual change, not worry about hurting feelings. College has 18 varsity sports programs, NCAA Division III. Men's sports: football, basketball, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, swimming, track, cross-country, tennis. Women's sports: basketball, soccer, volleyball, field hockey, lacrosse, swimming, track, cross-country, tennis. Total athletic budget is $8.2 million annually, about 8.6% of college budget. Men's sports get $4.8 million, women's get $3.4 million. That's 58% versus 42%. Clear inequality, violates Title IX spirit. When I arrived, I immediately identified this as a problem. Did analysis, presented to President Morrison. We have a significant gender funding gap in athletics. Our male athletes receive $1.4 million more than female athletes. She's skeptical immediately. We're Title IX compliant. We've been audited. Compliance is minimum standard. We should strive for actual equity. Show her my proposal, Equity Budget Reallocation Initiative. Shift $1.4 million from men's programs to women's programs. Achieve perfect 50-50th split, model equity for our students. She shakes her head. Athletics brings in donations, mostly from male alumni. Football and basketball alums give millions. We can't touch those programs. This is exactly the problem: money over equity, tradition over justice. So we're going to perpetuate inequality because of donor preferences. We're going to be fiscally responsible about institutional priorities. She tables my proposal, says we'll revisit it later. That was 18 months ago. We never revisited it. But I never forgot it, kept gathering data, building my case. Meanwhile, I make smaller changes, things within my authority. Increase funding for women's club sports. Add 2 new women's programs. Reduce men's recruiting budgets. Shift those dollars to women's recruitment. Men's coaches start complaining. Football coach especially. Coach Davis, 58, been here 25 years, old school football guy. He comes to my office. Dean, my recruiting budget was cut 30%. We're reallocating resources to programs that need support. My program brings in alumni donors. We're the face of the college. Your program also reinforces toxic masculinity and gender hierarchy. He looks at me like I'm speaking another language. We're just playing football, teaching young men teamwork and discipline. Football culture is inherently problematic. We need to examine that. He leaves frustrated, goes to President Morrison. She calls me in. What's this about cutting football's recruiting budget? I'm making incremental equity improvements within my authority. Football alumni donate $3 million annually. You're poking a bear. If they only donate because we fund football, that's concerning. She's frustrated with me. I'm frustrated with her. Stalemate continues. Then 6 months ago, opportunity presents itself. College is facing budget shortfall for $1 million deficit projected. COVID enrollment dip is still affecting us. Applications are down. President Morrison forms budget committee. I'm on it. Committee meets weekly, looking for cuts, trying to balance budget. Every department is asked to find savings. Nothing is sacred. I see my chance. Athletics is 8.6% of budget, but serves maybe 20% of students. Most students never attend games, never benefit from athletic spending. You are cutting academic programs, increasing class sizes, all to maintain expensive sports programs that primarily benefit men. Prepare presentation for budget committee, 40 slides, comprehensive. Athletics funding and institutional priorities. Show per student cost of athletics versus academics. $12,000 per athlete per year versus $4,000 per regular student per year. Show attendance at games. It's abysmal except for football homecoming. Average basketball game has 150 fans, mostly parents. Baseball games have maybe 50 people watching. But we spend millions maintaining these programs. Present my recommendation. Eliminate low attendance men's sports. Cut football, baseball, and men's lacrosse. Save $3.2 million. Reallocate $1 million to women's sports. Rest goes to academics. Committee room goes silent. People are shocked. CFO speaks first. Football brings in donations. We can't cut it. Those donations are contingent on maintaining an inequitable system. Do we want to be held hostage by donors who support gender inequality? President Morrison is shaking her head. This is not realistic. We have contractual obligations to coaches, to conference affiliations. I'm prepared for this. Coaches can be reassigned or bought out. Conference affiliations can be adjusted. Other schools have done this. Show examples. 3 small colleges that cut football in past decade. All survived. All shifted resources to academics and other programs. This is our chance to be leaders in equity and fiscal responsibility. Committee takes a vote on whether to explore the proposal. It's 4-3 to study it further. Barely passes. Morrison votes against. But I have permission to develop detailed implementation plan. Spend next month building comprehensive proposal. Timeline for program elimination, staff transitions, facility repurposing, communication strategy, student support services, reallocation plan. It's beautiful, it's thorough, it's revolutionary. Present to full committee, then to President Morrison privately. This is institutional suicide, she says, voice is sharp. 3 programs support 180 male athletes. What about them? They can transfer to other schools or join club sports. What about the coaches? These are people's livelihoods. They get severance. They can find jobs elsewhere. She's getting angry now. Rare for her. What about alumni? Football alumni alone give $3 million annually. You think they'll keep giving? If they only give to perpetuate gender inequality, we don't want their money. She stands up. Meeting over. I'm not bringing this to the board. You don't have the authority to block it. Committee approved exploration. I'm the president. I decide what goes to the board. We're at an impasse. She won't move forward. I won't back down. But then something unexpected happens. Budget crisis gets worse. State funding gets cut. Enrollment drops more. We're at $6 million deficit now. Emergency board meeting is called. Everything is on the table. President Morrison is forced to present all cost-cutting options, including mine, eliminating men's sports programs. Board meeting is contentious. 12 board members, split opinions. Some are alumni, including 2 former football players. Others are business people. They just want budget balanced. I present my case. Focus on fiscal responsibility and equity. We're spending $3.2 million on 3 programs with minimal ROI, while cutting academic programs that serve the entire student body. This is an opportunity to realign our values with our spending. Former football player on board, guy named Tom, speaks up. These programs build character, teach leadership that has value. That value doesn't justify the cost or the gender inequity. Show the numbers again, the per-student costs, the attendance figures. Another board member, woman named Sarah, supports me. I think she's right. We're subsidizing programs that mostly benefit men, while our academic programs that serve everyone are suffering. Debate goes on for 2 hours. It's heated, personal. Finally comes to a vote, 7-5 to approve program eliminations. Football, baseball, men's lacrosse, gone starting next academic year. I feel victorious, finally achieved what I've been fighting for. President Morrison looks sick. She knows what's coming. Announcement goes out the next day, press release, campus email. In response to fiscal challenges and commitment to equity, Westfield College will discontinue 3 men's varsity sports programs. All hell breaks loose immediately. I mean immediately. Campus Facebook group explodes. Hundreds of angry comments. Alumni Twitter is on fire. Former players are outraged. This is destroying tradition, killing the soul of the college. Local news picks it up. College cuts football program after 95 years. Get interviewed. I'm prepared. I'm confident. This was a necessary decision for fiscal health and gender equity. We're choosing to invest in academics and equitable athletic opportunities. Interviewer asks, what about the students affected? They have options to transfer or participate in club sports. This is about institutional priorities and values. Interview airs. Response is brutal. I become the villain. Social media is attacking me personally, calling me every name. Feminist Dean destroys men's sports to push her agenda. Death threats in my email. Have to report several to campus police. But I stand firm. This is righteous. This is necessary. 2 days after announcement, first donor pulls their giving. Football alum have been giving $50,000 annually, cancels it. Then another $75,000 annual donor cancels. Then another $100,000 donor. This one sends angry letter. I gave to support athletics and tradition, not to fund your ideology. I will not give another cent while you're eliminating programs I care about. President Morrison is getting calls. She's panicking. 1 week after announcement, sitting in her office. We've had 43 donors cancel or pause their giving so far. Total annual impact is $2.7 million. This is catastrophic. I'm unmoved. They'll come back, or we'll find new donors who support our actual values instead of tradition. We don't have time for them to come back. We need money now. She's right. College operates on tight margins. Donations are critical. But I can't back down now, can't show weakness. We made the right decision. We need to weather the storm. 2 weeks after announcement, it gets worse. Major donor, Richard Caldwell, football alum, class of 1978. He's given $200,000 annually for past 15 years, total of $3 million. Also pledged $5 million to new athletic facility construction. He requests meeting with President Morrison and full board. Meeting happens. I'm required to attend. He wants me there. Richard is 64, made his money in real estate, very wealthy. He walks in with his attorney, ominous sign, sits down, doesn't shake anyone's hand, opens a folder. I'm here to formally withdraw all financial support from Westfield College. That includes my annual giving and my $5 million capital pledge. Board members are in shock. $5 million pledge was cornerstone of facility plan. Richard, let's discuss this. We can find a compromise. There's no compromise. You're eliminating the football program. That program gave me my education, my network, my career foundation. And he points at me, eliminated it for her political agenda. I speak up, defended myself. This was a fiscal and equity decision. No, this was an ideological decision wrapped in fiscal language. He pulls out papers. He's done his homework. I've reviewed your published papers. Dean, your dissertation. You've been advocating for eliminating men's sports for 15 years. This wasn't about budget. You used budget crisis as cover. He's not wrong, but I can't admit that. My academic work informed a sound financial decision. You destroyed 95 years of tradition to prove a point about gender. He stands up, meeting over for him. Every football alum I know is pulling their donations. We're organizing. We're done with this college until she's gone. He leaves. His attorney follows. Room is silent. Board member Tom speaks first. He's right. She used the budget crisis. This was always about her ideology, not about money. President Morrison looks at me. Is that true? Have to be honest. I've always believed men's sports are over-resourced. But the budget crisis made this decision fiscally sound. You manipulated the situation to achieve your personal agenda. Feel defensive, attacked. I did what's right for equity. Over the next month, it becomes a full disaster. 87 donors cancel their giving. Total impact $6.2 million annually. That's on top of the $6 million deficit we already had. We're now looking at $12 million shortfall. Richard Caldwell makes good on his threat, organizes alumni. Football Alumni Association formally cuts all ties with college. That's 400-plus alumni who've been consistent donors. Local business community sides with the alumni, reduces partnerships. Applications for next year are down 18%. Students are choosing other schools. Nobody wants to attend a college that's in crisis and eliminating programs. Emergency board meetings 6 weeks after the announcement. Budget situation is now existential. College might not survive. Board is furious. President Morrison is defeated. We have no choice. We have to reverse the decision. We can't reverse it. That makes us look weak. We look weak anyway, and broke. We need the donors back. Vote is 10-2 to reverse the program cuts. Announce that football, baseball, and lacrosse will continue. After further review and community feedback, we're maintaining all athletic programs. It's humiliating, complete reversal, admission of defeat. But it's too late. Damage is done. Trust is destroyed. Richard Caldwell issues statement. Reversal is good but insufficient. We need assurance that ideological decision-making won't happen again. We need leadership change. Dean needs to be removed. Board agrees. They have no choice. Donors have leverage. Called into meeting, President Morrison and board chair. We're terminating your position effective immediately. This is retaliation for trying to implement equity. This is consequence for destroying donor relationships and institutional trust. Offered severance, but it's minimal, 3 months' pay. Escorted off campus that afternoon, 2 years of work erased. News spreads immediately. Dean fired after failed sports elimination. I'm the story. I'm the cautionary tale. I'm the failure. Social media is celebrating. Woke Dean gets what she deserves. Even some progressive voices are critical. This was poorly executed. Only my closest ideological allies support me, but they're not hiring. Spend the next months applying for similar positions. Dean roles, VP of Student Life, director positions at other colleges. Every search committee Googles me, finds the Westfield disaster. One hiring chair is honest in rejection email. Your approach to change management was too aggressive and costly. You didn't build consensus, didn't consider stakeholder impacts. That's not leadership we're looking for. Another says, you became a lightning rod. We can't afford that risk. 6 months unemployed, savings depleting, ego destroyed. Apply for non-leadership roles, associate dean, director of programs. Still too risky. Nobody wants the dean who killed football. Have to leave higher education entirely. That career is over. End up taking program coordinator role at nonprofit, $62,000. Used to make $175,000. Used to have staff. Used to have authority. Now I'm coordinating community workshops and filing reports. Boss is 15 years younger than me. She knows about Westfield. I support your values, but you went about it wrong. Sometimes equity work needs to be incremental. She's not wrong, but hearing it from a 28-year-old stings. 1 year after being fired, see article about Westfield. College recovers after leadership crisis. Richard Caldwell reinstated his $5 million pledge. Athletic facility construction is moving forward. Football team had winning season. Alumni engagement is up. Applications are recovering. Enrollment is stabilizing. New Dean of Student Affairs was hired, man in his 50s. His bio emphasizes collaborative leadership and stakeholder engagement. He's implementing equity initiatives too, but slowly, carefully. Women's sports are getting more funding, but men's aren't losing any. They're just finding new money, raising more funds, growing the pie. Instead of taking from one to give to another like I did. And it's working. Everyone's happy. Programs are thriving. College is stable and more equitable than when I started. But they achieved it without me, without my approach, without the crisis. Turns out you can make progress without burning everything down. 2 years later, still at the nonprofit, still making $62,000. Got promoted to senior coordinator, still nowhere near dean level. Live in small apartment, can't afford the nice condo anymore. Watch LinkedIn, see my former peers advancing, becoming presidents. I'm the one who flamed out, who pushed too hard, who failed publicly. See article about Richard Caldwell. He donated another $2 million. Endowed scholarship fund for first-generation students. including both male and female athletes, supporting everyone. That's $10 million he's given to Westfield now. All of it came back after I was fired, after my plan was reversed. That $10 million could have paid for a lot of equity programs, could have helped a lot of students, male and female. But it walked away when I killed the programs he cared about. And returned when they brought those programs back. 3 years later, 46 years old, career in education is over. That chapter ended when I tried to eliminate football, when I prioritized my ideology over institutional sustainability, when I used budget crisis as cover to achieve personal agenda. Richard Caldwell was right. That's exactly what I did. Have been waiting for opportunity to cut men's sports. Budget crisis gave me the cover, the justification, the excuse. But I didn't build consensus, didn't consider consequences, didn't think about the students, the coaches, the community. Just focused on my goal, my vision, my version of equity. And it cost me everything, cost the college millions, cost 180 student athletes their programs, at least temporarily, cost coaches their jobs, cost staff their stability, all for a decision that got reversed 6 weeks later. Because I didn't understand that change requires buy-in, that you can't force equity at the expense of relationships, that donors matter, tradition matters, community matters, even when you think your cause is righteous and just. Now I'm here, 46, working at a nonprofit making $62,000. Former dean with a PhD, with 19 years in higher ed, reduced to coordinating programs and filing reports. Because I tried to cut football and lost $10 million. That's my legacy. That's what Google says about me. Dean who tried to eliminate football for equity budget. Lost job after donors pulled $10 million. That's the first thing anyone sees when they search my name. Not my publications, not my dissertation, not my other work. Just the disaster at Westfield, the failed equity initiative. The dean who thought she could beat tradition with ideology and learned the hard way that tradition has money, and money talks louder than equity, especially when you don't build support for change. When you force it through despite opposition, when you use crisis as cover for personal agenda. That's what I did, and that's why I'm here. 3 years later, career destroyed, reputation ruined, making a third of my former salary, living in small apartment. Watching the college thrive without me, achieve equity without me, do it better than I did, slower but sustainable, because they understood what I didn't. That change without community support doesn't last. That taking from Peter to pay Paul just makes enemies. That tradition and progress can coexist if you're patient. I wasn't patient, I was righteous and certain. And it cost me my career, my reputation, my future. Cost the college millions, cost students their programs. All for a decision that lasted 6 weeks, before being completely reversed. That's my legacy, 6 weeks of failed equity, followed by years of consequences. Still paying for them now at 46. Making $62,000 and coordinating workshops, while Westfield thrives and Richard Caldwell donates millions. And football keeps playing every Saturday, despite my best efforts to kill it, because I learned too late that you can't force equity without support, can't achieve justice by creating injustice, can't build a better future by destroying tradition, without bringing people along, without earning buy-in, without understanding that change is a process. Not a declaration, not a decisive moment, but a slow build, a gradual shift. That requires patience I didn't have, and wisdom I couldn't find, until it was too late, and my career was over, and the $10 million was gone, and I was left here, coordinating workshops, and wondering what could have been, if I'd been smarter, slower, more strategic, instead of righteous, aggressive, and certain. That's what I think about every day at my nonprofit desk. Former dean turned coordinator, who learned about power by losing all of it to Richard Caldwell and his $10 million and 95 years of football tradition that I couldn't kill, no matter how hard I tried.